Well, good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name's Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Corporal Jeanette McNeely. Today marks the 117th anniversary of the formation of the Australian Army. We welcome the serving Army members that are joining us here today, and we thank them and those that have served before them for their service to the nation. We warmly welcome the family of Private Thomas Henry Kitchen, whose story will be told shortly. We're honoured to acknowledge Lieutenant General Angus Campbell, Chief of Army Australia, Warrant Officer Don Spinks, Regimental Sergeant Major of the Australian Army, and Mr Chris Raymond, Vice President and General Manager of Autonomous Systems, Boeing, and the accompanying delegations. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family, visitors and students on behalf of the following schools. From Victoria, Galilee Regional Catholic School, South Melbourne. From Queensland, Ambrose Tracy College, Indooroopilly. And from New South Wales, St Ignatius College, Riverview, Lane Cove. Australia's Federation Guard is a tri-service ceremonial unit of the Australian Defence Force. They provide a ceremonial presence at civil and military events and during visits to Australia by foreign dignitaries. The Guard will now dismount the catapult party from the tomb of the unknown Australian soldier. I invite you all to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we
Students, you may be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Thomas Kitchen. Thomas Henry Kitchen was born in 1892, one of 5 children of Henry and Alice Kitchen of the Sydney suburb of Waterloo. He attended Cleveland Street Public School and afterwards worked as a labourer in nearby Redfern. Kitchen enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force in May 1915. After 2 months training at Liverpool Military Camp, he embarked for Egypt with a reinforcement group for the 3rd Battalion. He joined his battalion in the trenches at Lone Pine on Gallipoli in early September, before it was withdrawn to Lemnos for 7 weeks of rest and recuperation. The battalion returned to Gallipoli in late October and remained there until the evacuation 2 months later. Kitchen returned to Egypt in December 1915, where the AIF underwent a period of reorganisation and training in preparation for its departure for the Western Front. Sailing for France in March 1916, the 3rd Battalion spent several weeks in the relatively quiet nursery sector near the town of Armentières on the Franco-Belgian border. There, the battalion participated in a number of trench raids before moving off to the Somme in early July. On the 23rd of July 1916, troops of the 3rd Battalion formed part of the 1st Division's capture of Pozières village. They held it against repeated German counterattacks and a concentrated bombardment that crashed down on the village. Kitchen received a shrapnel wound to the hand in fighting at Pozières and was evacuated to England for a period of hospitalisation and recovery. When Kitchen returned to France 3 months later, he spent several weeks posted to the 53rd Battalion before rejoining the 3rd Battalion in its winter positions near Guerdancourt in December 1916. Here, the 3rd Battalion spent one of the coldest winters on record, where the mud, frostbite and trench foot proved far greater enemies than the German army. The 3rd Battalion participated in the advance that followed when the Germans abandoned their Somme positions early in the new year. By March 1917, the battalion were occupying a thin defensive screen by Ligny-Tiroir, near the town of Bapaume. Early on the morning of the 2nd of March 1917, German troops conducted a raid on the Australian positions outside Ligny-Tiroir and succeeded in killing and capturing a number of men of the 3rd Battalion. Among the dead was Thomas Kitchen, who seems to have been posted as a sentry for a nearby command post at the time of the raid. Aged 25 at the time of his death, Kitchen was buried near where he fell and was later interred nearby in the Wallencourt British Cemetery. Thomas Kitchen is listed on the Isle of Honour on my right, amongst more than 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. His is just one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Thomas Kitchen, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes this evening's last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.